Inconceivable!
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
Welcome to the Cheap Seats and Stickman podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the latest, newest, freshest edition of Cheap Seats and the Stickman podcast. I am Jason Burgos. He is Jose Maldonado. How are you doing, Mr. Maldonado?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's good to be back, and thank you all for tuning in. We got a nice show lined up for you, man. Very informative, and let's get this thing started.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we haven't done a show in a little while. I've missed doing it. For everybody listening, we're going to have a mix of two segments. The first segment is we're going to cover some NFL fantasy football, give you guys some tips, some ideas, have some conversation on it. Season is coming up soon, September 11th. And then the second segment is going to be on Jose's top 5 choices of summer movies 2016. He's going to get to show off his expertise and his knowledge and his movie viewing skills. I'm excited to hear what you got to say. What's your top 5 choices?
Hey, man, the summer had some disappointments, but it has some gems in there, man, and I want to share that with the world. Where you should share your time with, your movie going time with. So I'm looking forward to giving that to you guys.
All right, so now we're going to bring on a friend of the show, Mr. David Rosario. He is going to be our fantasy football expert. He's going to give us all his information. He's an avid player. He does the mock drafts. He takes this stuff very seriously. He's going to give us all these interesting nuggets of who you should find and who you should pick. And let's try to get Mr. Rosario on the phone right now. This is all very high tech.
Of course.
What's going on?
Hello, Mr. Rosario. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, JB?
How you doing? David, say hello to Jose, my co-host Jose. Say hello to David.
What up, Jose?
Man. How you doing tonight, man? Good to have you on.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll get right into it. You're talking some fantasy football. I mean, the season's coming up quick. I mean, it's, it's still a good, a week or so for people to get into from fantasy leagues, do all kinds of stuff that they're into. The first thing I wanted to say is thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it and giving your in-depth knowledge of fantasy football.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, man.
All right,
let me know what you need to know.
So, Jose, started off with some questions from Mr. Rosario.
Hi, Mr. Rosario. So, first thing off the bat, I guess we got to set a ground, kind of a foundation for this. What's your preferred source when it comes to fantasy football? Do you go ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, or is there another format? What's your weapon of choice?
I mean, in terms of sources and information, I actually like independent sites like Roto Grinders. They have good fantasy tools and updates and everything. So, and also Fantasy Pros on Twitter. I think Twitter is a great tool for fantasy. I mean, you get the up-to-the-date minute, you get news right there, and up to the second. I mean, in terms of playing leagues, I would say ESPN and Yahoo are pretty much the same thing. I mean, because everybody could customize their, points per game and PPRs. So, in that case, they're all one in a bunch.
Hey, man. Yeah. See, this is good information to hear, man, because I'm already behind the curve. Didn't think about Twitter being a good source for that, man. So that's good stuff to hear, man.
You put the notifications on Twitter and on your favorite source, like I said, Fantasy Pros, Roto Grinders. You get the guy gets injured, you're gonna get the first to know, and then you could make those roster moves before anybody knows.
Nice.
Yeah, I was looking it up. I've always been a person that's done Yahoo myself, so I was looking up what's the difference between some of them, and while looking up the ESPN stuff, the Twitter. I get what you're saying because it was saying that the experts on ESPN, you can throw them questions on Twitter and they'll answer it for you to help you out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially Matt Camp, he's a good guy on Bleacher Report. If you follow him, I hit him up plenty of times. He actually got me some money last year. I won second place in my fantasy.
Nice.
Because he hit me up and he said, get Buck Allen on the Ravens when Foster went down. So that helped me out right there.
Wow.
And these guys are willing to say, people sometimes shy away from not going to people like that, but they actually answer your question. I mean, if you're respectable and not like a troll, they're going to answer your questions. I mean, just something we would do. If someone's being nice to us, we're going to say, the 21 bus is around the corner.
So
do unto others.
listen
Do
to
unto
everybody
you.
listening. Do not troll these experts. They will help you make money, man. Don't play
Exactly. And
games.
they don't forget you either. They'll block you too. So
Oh yeah, man. You know, the internet is written in ink, not pencil. So
yes, exactly.
All right, so I was looking up, speaking of ESPN, I looked up Matthew Berry, the top analyst for ESPN's Fantasy Sports, and he gave
Yes.
his top 10 choices. Now, I'm going to run them down, and you give me your thoughts. Do you agree with a lot of them? And then if you don't, just give me who were your top 5, the top 10, like what were the guys you were going with now? He starts over with his top pick is Antonio Brown. Then he follows it up with Beckham, Julio Jones, Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Hopkins, Todd Gurley, Lamar Miller, which is interesting. He's so high. Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, running back from Arizona, and
My man.
Ezekiel Elliott. The first thing that came to my mind is, again, as not as good a fantasy expert as you, because I always draft quarterback first. Not even a quarterback in the top 10 at all.
Oh no,
exactly.
No. Quarterbacks you could actually get now. You got to start looking at quarterbacks now in the 7th round.
Wow.
Believe it or not, it sounds amazing, but yes, you got to look. You got value there. You got Eli. He's straight value. You got even Stafford, Matthew Stafford. People think of him. You got to understand. People look at Matthew Stafford. Oh, he hasn't won nothing. That doesn't matter in fantasy football. What matters in fantasy football is stats. And Stafford's one of only 4 players last year to have 10 games of 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only 4 QBs, and that was Brady, that was Eli, that was Stafford, and that was Rivers. Wow. But you wouldn't think that. You would think like Aaron Rodgers or you think Cam. No, right. So you need to wait. In these drafts, when you're drafting, you got to look at value and wait. Don't never jump the gun. You know, never reach. That's the key thing in the drafts.
And so of those picks, who do you agree with most of those? Would you throw some in? No.
Well, he ranked. You said that he ranked AP before David Johnson.
Yeah, wait.
Right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks ahead.
No, especially in PPR formats, which is points per reception. I would take David Johnson straight up because AP. When was the last? AP doesn't catch out of the backfield.
That's true.
And he's 30. He's on the other side of 30. He's 31 now. So he's not as fresh. And this year, too, with the injury with Teddy Bridgewater, they're going to stack the box even more now. I mean, so they're looking to get him. He's with running backs on the other side of 30. They don't produce. Yeah. I mean, he's also prone to get hurt. And David Johnson he has fresh legs. He's young. He catches out of the backfield and a good offense with good receivers. I'll put that ahead. I mean, LeVon Bell, he's suspended, but he's elite. You know, if you want to take that chance and draft him, if he falls to you at 12 in the first round, all right, draft him. But don't reach for him when you have like the 5th pick or something. Might as well just get a receiver or even David Johnson. I'll rank him ahead of them.
I have a quick question now. Peterson, now that Bridgewater is out for the year, does that raise his value at all, or just because he still isn't a very good receiver, it's just moderate raise in his value? And not a big difference?
Yes, moderate raise. I mean, already before even with Teddy, I was still worried on him just for the points I just said about his age. You know, I just don't like running backs on the other side of 30. This is something that just happens. You know, you can't trust it,
especially with the NFL. You know, I mean, you got to wear on them after a while.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then AP is a bruising back. You know, he doesn't go out of bounds, and he could just. And then that omen with the Vikings just happened with Teddy. Something may just happen to him too. I mean, that's just feeling that I have in terms of that. So anyway, what was that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you. You know, we got a little bit of your insights in terms of taking quarterbacks a little bit later.
Yeah.
So I guess what would be your preference? Would you go receiver? Would you go with running back? How would you, I guess, set up your depth chart in terms of value? What would you go for first in that kind of order?
Well, the whole trend now is no running backs in the first 3 rounds. Everybody's picking receivers. Yeah, well, that's the new thing. That's been like for 2 years now. I mean, so you're gonna have, if you get that receiver, you have to go. I mean, you get Julio, even Dez. He's just a red zone target. This is the thing in fantasy football. You got to get those guys that are big guys in the red zone, and you got to target them. Dez, even Mike Evans. People are sleeping onto the next round. Mike Evans is a big target. So you got to get those guys that are going to score.
Now, how about somebody like Gronkowski, who's not necessarily a wide receiver, he's a tight end, but still one of Brady's favorite targets? Would he be kind of a high up there, or how would that work?
Well, that's great that you brought that up. Tight ends is second. You can get tight ends, big value in late rounds, just like quarterbacks this year. Like, you don't even have to reach for tight ends. I mean, Dwayne Allen on the Colts with Andrew Luck, he's going like in the 10th round. And he's like the biggest target on that team because all the receivers are like under 5'9", they're 5'9", 6 feet. So he's a red zone monster. You can get him in the 9th round. You don't have to reach for him. Excuse me, my daughter just woke up.
Does she have any?
She likes Dwayne Allen too. Yeah. But like I'm saying, that you have Dwayne Allen as tight end. I'll give you the value right now that I had the other day that I was saying to somebody. You got Dwayne Allen, and you even got guys like, even in a Reed from Redskins. He's like second to Gronkowski now. He almost matched him up last year in terms of stats, and you could get him in the 4th round.
Wow.
You don't reach. The key of drafting is do not reach if you don't have to.
Don't fall for the name value, that kind of
thing.
Yeah,
the name value gets you quick. Like you guys said, you guys thinking quarterbacks 1st round, and I'm like, well, no way. Names don't equal numbers.
Well, since you're speaking of reaching, I mean, what's your who are some of the plays maybe that isn't a reach, but it's just a calculated move that are the more underrated guys that maybe someone will look at and go, what is he doing with that pick in the 5th round that are just like Allen just brought up? Are there any other guys that are totally worth it to get high and surprise some people?
Oh, yeah. I like Randall Cobb this year, man. He's going in the 4th round. Last year, he kind of wasn't good because Nelson got hurt early in the season last year. And they put Allen on the outside. He's usually a slot guy. So this year, he'll return to the slot and make big numbers with Aaron Rodgers. And people are picking him in the 3rd, 4th round. And he has the ability to be number 1 wide receiver. I'll give you another wide receiver that's undervalued too, Demaryius Thomas. People don't believe that Demaryius Thomas is going to be good because they got a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, Simeon,
Yeah, and look what he did with Tim Tebow.
Yeah,
Demaryius Thomas did great. So did Eric Decker. That's another undervalued receiver. And you could get him in the 3rd round too. So sometimes you don't have to reach for the 2 wide receiver theory that I mentioned. You could actually just get 2 running backs and actually get 2 wide receivers in later rounds.
Now, since you're giving us,
it all depends on who's drafting, of course.
Now, I'm going to say, since you're giving us all these great nuggets on people to look for that are much more valuable than they appear, at first glance, who are the guys that are usually names that maybe some people are touting as higher than they really should be or have had past years that are good, but maybe this is the year that you got to just stay away and avoid them and don't cost yourself some money?
Yeah, like a Troy Aikman or a Terry Bradshaw, you know.
Yes.
Well, like AJ Green is like a top pick. I mean, he's not a bruising type of receiver. Like, he's soft. He makes his touchdowns for like 50-yard passes. You don't want that because how many times someone's going to catch a 50-yard pass and get it for a touchdown? You want guys who are big in the red zone. So AJ Green is one of those guys. Like I said, AP we talked about. Like everybody's going to pick AP high, but you shouldn't touch him. Even people are picking. I see that they're picking DeMarco Murray again. Like they're thinking that he's going to translate. I'm like, that's not going to. And the theory I said the other day that DeMarco Murray was successful under center, running out of center. The tight ends run out of shotgun. So do the Eagles last year. He doesn't like that. Yeah. So he can't hit that big play. And a sleeper mentioning DeMarco Murray is his backup, Derrick Henry. That man, you want a man that's near the end zone who's going to bruise it in and get you that 6 points. And he could make that week for you, just getting one touchdown and a couple carries. So those guys people are looking at, I mean, there's a ton of guys like that. I mean, like I say, even Gronk, it sounds crazy, but like Gronk, he has the possibility of getting hurt. He got Garoppolo for the first 4 games. I mean, even though he may not show, those first 4 games could hurt you in your season if he doesn't do what Gronk numbers, you know?
Yeah.
So the names, like I said, names don't equal numbers sometimes.
Jose, is there anything? Yeah, give us some more questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, it seems that that's especially the case with the running backs. Like you said, DeMarco Murray. It seems a running back will have a season or 2 to kind of build up a reputation, and people will think that that's going to be the standard and they can have a major fall off. You know what I mean? I guess what would be the kind of the telling signs to know when you should kind of jump ship or if this one's a keeper? You know.
And a good point too, what you guys saying, like for Todd Gurley, who's a sweetheart this year. Everybody loves him because of last year. I don't like Todd Gurley this year actually to pick him high because how many times are my emphasis is always red zone. What does the team get in the red zone? How many times is Gurley going to be in the red zone with that team? The quarterback is going to be Case Keenum. Is he really going to get him?
Is he really going to get him? He's not going to be a master.
No, I don't know. No, and then I don't think so. But like, how many times he's going to? I mean, he's going to break that big play again. Of course, he's going to get that 60-yard touchdown. But how many times you going to get that 60-yard touchdown a year? It's not going to. You got to get guys. You're thinking about getting inside the 20. Teams that get inside the 20, and that's why people are looking at the Steelers team. Big Ben's going to get you inside the 20. So when LeVon comes back, he's a threat to score. When AB, he's a beast. He's a score. And AB, he's the only man that actually scores from 50. He get like 5 50-yard touchdowns a year. He's the only guy that does that. So you got to look at guys like that. But like with Gurley, you got to think about the team too. What team is he on? Are they going to get inside the 20?
Fair points. I mean, since I got you here, would you like to make an early Super Bowl pick so when it's totally wrong, we're just going to kill you about it later?
Yeah, thanks for you didn't tell me that yesterday. Yeah. Thanks for that freaking
surprise on you.
I was actually thinking about that today on the toilet. And I still couldn't come up with an answer. But
that's the best place to think, isn't it? I mean, that's what I
think. But I still didn't have an answer there, so I don't know where else could I think.
If you didn't have it there, man, good. God help you.
You know what happened when I was there? I was reading a freaking hairspray bottle. I couldn't figure it out.
That's not good. Like
distractions,
people thinking stuff.
Yeah, that's good literature. But anyway, so man, now I'm stuck now. You guys got me. So I mean, let's see. I'm gonna pick. I said this the other day, a couple weeks ago. Actually, people thought I was crazy. I actually like the Giants.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
That makes Jason happy.
I mean, they basically had the worst defense. Yeah, they basically had the worst defense of all time last year. And they actually they won 6 games.
Yeah,
that's
any worse. It can only go up from here.
Yeah, and they got good offensive weapons. Sterling Shepard is one of my sleeper guys on wide receiver. I guess Giants and
we asked the tough, hard questions here.
That's the hardest fucking question.
It's an aha question. Bam.
I say Pats again.
Well, if they can truly end the trilogy and beat them once again, I really could die at that moment. Pretty happy.
I won't like that though. I hate both of them, but I actually like the Giants to win. I'm a Jet fan. So.
All right.
Nobody else in New England likes the Patriots. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. No, you see some people in the Bronx liking them. The same ones that like the Yankees and the Red Sox. Those little Dominicans. Yeah, guys.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Gave us some fascinating nuggets. Whoever's listening to this, do you want to plug like your Twitter or like a social media? If they like what you hear, maybe they'll go somewhere else and get some more information from you.
Well, I have an Instagram, dsmiths84, and this year I'm going to put up a lot of, little pictures of picks of the week. I mean, I have a Twitter, but I'm not that active on it, but I'm going to start working. It's the same thing, dsmiths84 at Twitter. And I'm going to put a lot of nuggets this week for the rest of the season, and DFS too, daily fantasy. So, yeah, hit me up.
All right, thank you so much. Maybe we could have you again on like playoff time. We could talk some playoff football.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right, thanks a lot, David.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right,
take care.
That was pretty good. I mean, he brought some really good info. I mean, I'm glad we had David on. Man, he did a good job there.
Oh, most definitely, man. He brought some real good insights, some real nuggets, and the segment was real entertaining. I like the interplay. It was really fun.
I feel like I learned something, and I hope all of you feel like you learned something. Because I'm one of those people. I've picked quarterback first, second pick. Like now, I feel like I'm worried about my team now. I'm in my first money league, and I'm worrying I'm not going to get any money now. I went quarterback 2 and 3.
Oh boy, look at that, man! You got you second guessing yourself. You know what? Then he did his job.
Yeah, I should have just waited till this. I should have waited till David gave us the info. But and what's he worse? He's in my league. He's probably going to win it all now.
Well, if he's ahead of you, now you know why, man. Dude's just ahead of the curve.
Oh my goodness. But let's move on. Let's move on to exciting conversation on movies, and they might get hectic and wild and fascinating, but this is the segment on the Stickman's top 5 of summer 2016. Take it away, Stickman.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, anybody who's been keeping track with movies for the summer of 2016, it was kind of a down year compared to last year. It was kind of the year of the sequels, but a lot of those just underperformed, man. You look at movies like Independence Day, Alice Through the Looking Glass, X-Men Apocalypse, even X-Men Apocalypse, that, usually Bryan Singer X-Men movies totally solid.
Yeah.
It underperformed both, with the reception and with the box office. So, it wasn't the best of summers, but there were some nuggets in there that I think are really worth seeing. So I'm here to share that with you today.
I mean, I'm glad you brought up those two. It just shows you, we've talked about it on prior shows, which you can go and look up on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Cheap Seats in the Stickman Podcast, or search the same thing on Google Play or iTunes. But those movies are lucky. There is a strong international market, especially Independence Day, because I know that one did solid, okay numbers, and Apocalypse did solid numbers. I mean, if not for the international numbers, if this was like 15 years ago, man, what a big disappointment those movies would have been.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's getting to that age where the international market is getting big enough to where it can really save a movie that was kind of a disappointment here. So movies like Independence Day and, especially Warcraft, which we talked about in the last podcast.
I saw a story talking about that. Would the studio actually ponder an only international release for a sequel to that movie?
That would be crazy to see, and that would kind of officially make it that America's not the only, all eyes aren't just on America's box office. Yeah. That, it would be a real interesting shift, and to see how the studios adjust accordingly. So.
All right, so what's your number 5 on your list of best summer 2016?
All right, man, so my number 5, and a quick disclaimer, being that we're talking about the summer movies, not just all of 2016, you won't get Deadpool or Zootopia, which I think two movies that would normally be on my top 5, but we're just outside the summer.
So what are you doing, June or May to August?
Yeah, I'm starting with the end of March, kind of where Batman vs. Superman kind of kicked off the season.
Okay, fair enough. It's become just like they're selling pumpkin iced coffees now in Dunkin' Donuts way before pumpkin season. Summer is earlier than just when it gets hot these days. That season starts earlier too.
No kidding, man. It's the summer season for them is just how early can we start getting this summer movie, money our way. So, and real quick, just probably my biggest blind spot from the summer that I wish I'd seen but hadn't caught up with would be The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Shane Black wrote and directed. Didn't get a chance to see that one, but that's one that I really wanted to catch up with. But my number 5 movie of the summer just came out not too long ago. Is a horror movie called Lights Out.
How was that? I didn't get to see that one.
Totally solid flick, man. I was kind of going back and forth between this and The Conjuring 2, which was also awesome. I love that franchise. But I gave it to Lights Out because whereas The Conjuring was kind of a little bloated at 2 hours and 15 minutes, Lights Out is a snug 90 minutes. It knows exactly what it is, and it does it really effectively. You want jump scares, you want to go for some creepiness, this gives it to you in spades. It knows exactly what it is, and you got to appreciate that, especially with a horror movie that doesn't beat around the bush. Really good story and really solid horror flick. I really, really liked it, man.
Well, man, 2 hours and 15 for The Conjuring horror. You're pushing it when you go over 1 hour and 45. 2:15 on horror. Woo! You better bring something special if you're doing that.
Seriously, man. I mean, as good as the flick was, after a while, you're just like, oh, how much more can they bring? How many more jump scares? How many more characters? Yeah. This and that.
Imagine Saw for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Oh my goodness, I'd be like a sociopath after that.
Yeah, at that point, it's like, listen, forget about killing the characters. Kill me. All right, just kill me. Put me out of my misery.
I started asking everybody, would you like to play a game? It'd be ridiculous.
But yeah, man, and what's been a really good year for horror movies, with movies like The Witch, which was really good as well. And Don't Breathe, which I haven't caught up with as well, but I've heard is awesome.
Oh yeah, with the man who's dying to be Cable.
Yeah, dude is putting it out there, hey, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yes,
look at me.
Yes. He's not even offering any back. He's just offering himself, no return.
Yeah, dude, he's not being real subtle about it, but hey, more power to Hopefully it works out for him. But yeah, Lights Out, totally solid flick, man.
So what's your number four?
So for my number four is a movie that not a lot of people might have seen, judging by the box office. It's a movie called Midnight Special.
Oh, I heard. Is this horror? I heard about this. It sounds familiar.
It's a sci-fi flick. Yeah, it's directed by Jeff Nichols, who directed a little movie called Take Shelter back in 2011, which was an awesome movie. It starred Michael Shannon, who also stars in Midnight Special here.
Okay.
Love Michael Shannon. Anybody who's seen Man of Steel, he was General Zod. Totally awesome actor. This one is a sci-fi movie, but it's not what you would think would be a sci-fi movie, where they tend to be a little bloated and stuff. Not to take anything from like Star Trek and movies like that, or Independence Day, where they're like big budget sci-fi. This one's low budget, but still totally solid. It's kind of sci-fi with soul. Yeah, it's a really good story.
Sort of like
has a really
Super
good
8-ish, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's kind of centered around that. It's very, very intimate.
Okay.
But it's interesting and very thought-provoking, especially with the ending, which I totally loved. It kind of makes you think, not to spoil anything, but you know, how would the world react when certain things come to light? And it's a real, yeah, you know, it's real interesting. Definitely give it a look. For anybody out there, it has Michael Shannon, Joel Edgerton, who's another actor I'm really fond of.
Wow, that's a good top two.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, Kirsten Dunst, who's kind of had a renaissance of late. She's been doing some really good indie flicks, kind of getting her reputation back in terms of her acting career. I can't recommend this one high enough, man. Give Midnight Special a look. It didn't do too well at the box office, but once it comes out on video, it's definitely worth your time. So give that one a look.
All right. Number three, what's it going to be?
All right, number three is going to be controversial, depending on where you fall on this one.
Does it have a familiar name as an wide quad?
That would be correct, sir. I'm going with Suicide Squad, man. You know what? I really, really don't get. All right, let me correct myself. I do get the hate because this movie is problematic. It does have its faults for sure. But unlike something like Batman versus Superman, which, you know, I defended to the death, but I just cannot defend anymore, especially after seeing it again. It is a slog, whereas Suicide Squad is just a lot of fun. You know what I mean? It's a fun time. You know, if you check your brain at the door, if you know what you're getting into, and if you love the characters, the MVPs of this movie, you know, by far were Will Smith and Margot Robbie.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, as Deadshot and as Harley Quinn. Wasn't too crazy about Leto as Joker, but you know, given the mess that was behind the scenes, it may have been, you know, something that wasn't his fault, or we'll never know. But this one's a good time, man. Even if, you know, this isn't where DC should be at this point, this is kind of a step in the right direction. They're kind of correcting ship, and I recommend this one, man. Even if you're not crazy about where DC's taking it, it's a whole lot of fun, man. It really is.
And I, you know, I'm not a big believer in it. I haven't seen it yet, though I want to. I just didn't want to pay movie theater prices for it. But I mean, there's no...
movie theater prices these days. Oof, can't blame you.
Oh, I missed the $4.50 matinee with Mom back in the '90s. Those are the days.
Good times, man. Whitestone Cinemas, like
yeah.
what?
If you don't know Whitestone Cinemas, people, look it up. It doesn't exist anymore. It's in the history books. Amazing.
Brings a tear to my eye, man.
But for anybody that knocks it, it really has become a full-fledged hit now. I mean, it made $135.1 million domestically in its opening week, and that's a serious number. I mean, so far for the summer, for the year, it's the fourth highest grossing movie. I mean, excuse me, it is the summer. It's the fourth highest grossing movie of the summer. That's still a very solid number in a era where summer movies are really where studios make all of their money for the majority of the year. And, I mean, as of late August, it was already up to a $585 million worldwide gross. I mean, those are good numbers. I mean, the rumors were that Warner Brothers internally thought 600 would be a successful, finish, and it's closing in on that. So, I mean, it's, everybody may knock it, but it's not getting enough people to go away, and people are still seeing it. And in the end, it's all about making the money, and if people enjoy it like you did, then that's all it's about.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, this showed some serious legs. You know, people were worried that it'd have serious drop-off, but it was #1 movie for 3 weeks in a row. Still out there making a little chunk of change, and you know it's going to make a ton when it gets to video. So, yes, props to Suicide Squad. It kind of hit a solid triple for Warner Brothers, if not a home run.
So number 1 and 2, the big finale. What is number 2 on the big board of summer 2016?
Well, number two for 2016, the summer, man, is one of the most anticipated ones, and it delivered. It was Finding Dory.
Oh, I'm glad that's two because I know what one is. But let's get back to Finding Dory.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise what's going to be number one. But Finding Dory, everybody's been waiting for this one since 2004's Finding Nemo. Beloved characters coming back, Marlin, Dory, and of course Nemo himself. Pixar, their track record speaks for itself. And this was another, just like the horror movies, this was a banner year for animation. There were some good animated movies during the summer as well. Secret Life of Pets was fun. Zootopia came out earlier in the year, but Finding Dory, it was just Pixar at its finest. They didn't reinvent the wheel, but they delivered a solid story with characters that everybody loves. It was funny as all heck. It's just Disney has been firing on all cylinders, and Pixar's, kind of the ace in the hole.
Yeah.
That you could always count on.
And they even have their own Disney Animated Studios, which is its own branch, which is crazy. I think a lot of people may not even realize that some of these movies that they think are Pixar are not, but they have a similar look, and they're just, like, perfect example, Zootopia. I mean, amazing movie that's not Pixar in it, but it's completely on the level. I mean, to add to Finding Dory, $931 million worldwide gross. Man. I mean, 480 in the States, which is higher than what you're going to have the number one movie, which again shows you, it's even everywhere it goes. But I mean, in the U.S. and I'm sure abroad too, but that's where it's the market for U.S. viewers is with family films, animated. Those still do huge numbers in this country.
Yeah, man, that's massive, and that's where Pixar really has settled in, is that Pixar is a good movie for all ages. Whether you're an adult, whether you're a kid, no matter who you are, you can find something to enjoy in these movies. And people have responded to that, and the box office shows it, man. So Finding Dory, another home run for Pixar.
And now, last but far, far from least, number one, give it to us.
And with no suspense whatsoever, number one movie of the summer of 2016 was obviously Now You See Me Too. No, it wasn't. It obviously was Captain America: Civil War. Yeah! Come on, man. This movie was all kinds of awesome. It may be the sexy thing now or the cool thing now to kind of backlash against Marvel. They're all the same. This and that. Listen,
the villains. Nobody dies. Blah, blah,
blah. Listen, people on the internet will find reasons to complain no matter what.
Yes.
With what Marvel has been doing, it's unprecedented. It really is. They've rewritten the rules as to how to make successful franchises work. If you really look at it, man, you could say some of their lesser efforts, maybe an Iron Man 2, maybe a Thor: The Dark World, something like that. You might want to call them bad movies, but you'd be wrong. It's just by comparison. These movies are totally solid.
The standard has been raised so high.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right, man. And Captain America: Civil War is another fine example of that. It's one of their best. And this is the Avengers movie that Age of Ultron should have been.
Yeah.
I wasn't as high on Age of Ultron as the first Avengers movie, but this one totally delivered. And what's amazing is that although they already have a great core cast in there that are really hitting their stride, Evans as Captain America, Downey as Iron Man, they introduced even more characters to the mix, and they were just as good, man. Black Panther was incredible in this movie. Chadwick Boseman knocked it out the park. And, of course, everybody's looking forward to Spider-Man with Tom Holland, man. He was a scene stealer. I just cannot say any more good stuff about this movie, man. It was so awesome, and it's a great time to be a comic book fan, man. Marvel is really, really delivering. This one was just off the hook, man. It really was.
I think that the lasting memory, I mean, there's so many great memories about that movie, but the lasting memories is when we've had an era where we've had movies like, Ocean's 12 or, League of Extraordinary Men, Extraordinary Gentlemen, so many movies where you have large casts and personalities and characters, and it becomes extremely hard to credibly make something so large a good movie and not a cluster F, and that's the lasting memory. For so many, plates spinning in that movie, the Russos did such a great job of balanced. It was a good, straight story. We didn't divert too much. It wasn't at all convoluted, which was a problem with Suicide Squad. Again, a large cast. How do you give everybody their moment and tell a good story? And they did such a great job. It all flows, very nice, very smoothly. Everything works. It's a Captain America story that's all encompassing with so many other characters, and that's what I love about it. And some people may not like it, and it's too much, but I enjoy those movies in the right format because it gives you a chance to meet other people, and it gives you a chance to everybody's fresh and new and interesting. It has their moments, so you're on your toes of interesting things coming at you all the time instead of one actor in 85% of the movie. You really get a dose of everything, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, they have the formula. It works. You mentioned the Russos. I love what they brought to the table. Captain America: Winter Soldier is maybe, aside from Avengers, my favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah. And
I'm really looking forward to what they do with Infinity War now that they're taking over for Joss Whedon with the Avengers franchise.
Yes.
I love their style. It's a perfect mix of realism and CGI to where it's not overly CGI. They balance their cast. It's going to be a really, really good time, man.
And that's what's great about going into this. A lot of people were excited about Avengers, with Whedon because he's one of us, so to speak, and he has a TV resume, and he understands how to, character development. But we all found out he did such a great job with the first one. The second one, he just kind of, crumbled under the weight of something so massive. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to take on such a big production from a major studio with so much money. What's great about what we're going into the Russos, they've already they've had like a nice stepping up process up into this. In that Winter Soldier was a pretty solid, sizable cast. A lot of people and characters, things going on. They did a great job. Then you take it up a notch with a lot of big name actors, personalities. You want to give everybody the chance debuting because that's a tough thing too. You want to debut a character and make them look good, and even bigger. Now they're moving on to an even bigger, and I just feel a good confidence in them and the writers that I don't feel any unpredictableness or unsureness. I feel like they're gonna, at worst, it should be solid. At best, it'll, again, like Civil War, be the next new best movie in their line of movies.
Yeah, man. We got they've given us plenty of reasons to be excited about their next project. So it's going to be good times from here on. And Doctor Strange is right around the corner, man. Marvel's going to keep right on hitting, man. I
mean, that was a great top five. I mean, I really digged it. Just to throw a couple of movies that were also, I found some nice little news notes about Sausage Party. Did you get to see Sausage Party? I didn't see that.
I didn't, but you know what? I've heard from a few people that it's not what they expected, man. Maybe a little disappointing. Yeah.
I mean, it's what the positive. Since you brought the balance to the negative, the positive is that on a $19 million budget, it made $80 million. I mean, it's not on the level of graphics and animation of the notable studios, but $80 million from a $19 million budget. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's Hollywood studios will take that every day, 2 times on Sunday. Another notable one, since I'll continue with the animated, and you brought it up earlier, was Secret Life of Pets. That made for Universal $353 million domestic, $724 million worldwide gross. I mean, that's really good.
Oh, that's crazy. And what I didn't realize is that was the first original property to make more than $100 million its first weekend.
Wow.
That just, it blew my mind. And if you think about it, it's true. It's mostly franchises or sequels.
Yeah.
This was a totally original property. Still hit a home run for Universal, man. It's a great family flick. It was a lot of fun, so it deserves it.
And that's you're gonna have a lot of kids coming up now that are used to $100 million openings, and that's supposed to be the only way you're supposed to have a hit. And if it's $100 million now, you have a hit, and that's just not the case. It's very few movies that really, in the grand scheme of all the movies that come out a year, that actually make that kind of money. Like the funniest thing that I always throw at people when we're talking gross was that Denzel Washington was this humongous star in the industry for a long time, and it wasn't until I think it was Man on Fire that he had a legitimate hit that made like high double-digit millions, and it wasn't 100 million. It was just high double digit, and that was the biggest release and debut of his career. Like and he was a well-known star before that. I think Flight tops that. Flight, has made more. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, this Denzel. He hasn't had many even like $60 million openings, which shows you, the level of expectations nowadays.
Yeah, it's crazy. Somebody that like Denzel, like you said, he's been, a consistently solid actor for so many years. It goes to show, man, it takes a lot to deliver, man. You just gotta hit at the right time. It's crazy.
And another name now, character name, and another franchise to add to the franchise points that we actually got a new Jason Bourne movie for the first time after a 9-year layoff with just Damon. We all know we got to see Bourne Legacy. Bourne Legacy was the one with Renner, right?
Right.
Yeah, that came out a few years ago, but different thing. That made $347 million worldwide. I mean, not as big money-wise as I thought it could, because it's such a well-known franchise. But still, going to the point is, not everything can make $1 billion. Like Captain America made $1.132 billion. Not everything can do that. Not everything has the 60, 70-year name value of Batman vs Superman. So 347 is not bad. That's a good number for a movie.
For sure, man. And that's another example of a movie that maybe underperformed a little bit here in the States, but more than made up for it internationally. That's becoming a major trend.
That's the end of our 2 segments. But, since we got a little time here and, our show covers all kinds of topics, I just wanted to bring up and get, your opinions and thoughts of our new Universal Champion on the Monday Night Raw brand. My good, I'm very excited for the Labor Day edition of KO Mania. I'm very excited.
Oh, brother, man, that was such a moment. You take the good with the bad. Now, I know you're not as high.
You take the good, you take the bad.
Everybody sing along now. But, man, that was incredible. Kevin Owens is the champ on Raw, man. He's the new WWE Universal Champ. Anybody who's followed Kevin Owens, man, can you believe he's made it to the top of the mountain? You being a big Kevin Owens fan, man, how are you feeling, bro?
I love it on so many levels. I mean, one, it's always cool when you see the untraditional looking wrestler make it to the top. It's, Foley-esque in that he's, doesn't have the typical look, but, physically and on the mic, the guy is maybe one of the best in the entire company. But, it's one of those classic moments. It shows you the uniqueness of the sport and the sports entertainment, and how this is something you don't have because you have injuries, and it drastically changes history, because just 3 weeks ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, Finn Balor was the new champion and was pushed right to the top from NXT. He was going to be the new face, the new babyface superstar to come, and he gets injured, and it completely changes things. If he does not get injured, Kevin Owens is probably continuing a very fun storyline with Chris Jericho, and we'll see how that plays out. But now, because of this, changes an entire philosophy for the next 6 months of a company, and they have new ideas, and all of a sudden a guy like in a meeting probably comes up, oh, maybe we should make Kevin Owens champion, and that's what happens, and you get this moment that will be remembered forever, and it's a great storyline. Like I've talked about it with people, like it's Triple H did such an amazing job. Like what he did, coming in, how everything looked with the pedigree, talking with Seth and getting his reaction, tons of credit needs to go to like the WWE production and the directors. The image of Foley and Stephanie looking in despair as Triple H went off. I mean, it's just one of those amazing moments, sort of like when Foley won or Seth Rollins ran out and cashed in a Mania. Just a moment people will hopefully remember for a long time. That's the thing. If he is a champion for 2 months and he becomes like Dolph Ziggler and it was a champion and you kind of remember it in your mind's eye but you don't see it, then it's a waste. But if he becomes a great, we're gonna look back and go, man, remember when he first won the title? Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, man, and hopefully that's the route that they take. They really need to solidify him, take advantage of this, because Finn Balor will be just fine when he comes back.
Yep,
he'll be over. This is the time to make Owens a solid, legitimate, top flight main eventer, and just listen to what was the cherry on the cake on Monday Night Raw when they went off the air, the fans chanting "You deserve it" to Kevin Owens. You know what I mean?
I got a follow-up question. I have another thing I wanted to bring up before we go, and I have a follow-up question in this. Do you think a Owens babyface turn is possible, or maybe a Seth Rollins babyface turn? Because there's a lot of talk and a lot of rumors that it's going to be Rollins-Owens Clash of Champions World Title match, and since we're split branded, we don't have a plethora of stars. Well, maybe that's not the main event. So I would guess that's the main event. Are they really going to have a two bad guy main event of a pay-per-view? I sense someone's got to go the other way.
Yep, and I think it's going to be Rollins. I think they're going to pull the trigger on a face turn. The way Triple H kind of looked at Owens, kind of like, all right, you're my guy now. to kind of stick it to Rollins. Like you said, a lot of it is going to be riding on what happens this Labor Day weekend edition of Raw.
Yeah.
But I think Rollins is going to be face, and you know what? I think it's the time for it because people want to cheer him. It's just he's so good at playing the heel. But you know what? I think he'll be really great. His moveset kind of lends itself well to being a babyface. I think he'll fit in just fine.
Your point is dead on, and like 2 weeks ago, I would have completely agree with you. I actually feel, and I think you're actually going to be right, but I feel it should probably be the other way. I feel that the Rollins face turn had an opportunity a few months ago, and it was completely missed, and now it just feels like, okay, we'll throw it at him. I think it all matters, like you said, what happens. Like, is Triple H really the bad guy here? I don't know. I mean, he powerbombed the guy that, pedigreed the guy that, half the crowd's booing anyway. Then he upset Stephanie, who is clearly the bad guy and no one likes. Mick is in a tough spot. I love the moment with him and Mick. It gives you, a sense of what their history is, the way they had so much friction during those moments. But maybe Kevin Owens maybe it's an opportunity to make Kevin Owens a babyface, because going off the air, you deserve it. The crowd loved it. It wasn't a boo shock moment. The crowd ate it up. It wasn't some audience, as far as I know, that was like, a super diehard group like a New York or Chicago or Montreal, Toronto. Regular, normal audience, and they loved it. I mean, this, to me, would seem like a perfect opportunity if Triple H plays like a renegade outside force, upsetting the Raw apple cart, and he's the guy. He's the untraditional guy that fans get behind, a la like a CM Punk, and maybe it might be better to make him a good guy. Maybe you set up Owens Brock at WrestleMania as he's the good guy.
Hey, that's a real interesting point, and if anybody can handle that, it'd be Owens, man. I mean, he's golden on the mic, and looking at his NXT debut, I mean, yeah, it didn't last long, but he was a face when he debuted. He was cool with Sammy until he destroyed him.
Yes.
Typically.
Poor Sammy.
But Owens can handle anything that's thrown at him, so it'll be real interesting to see what they take with him. But bottom line, Kevin Owens is top of the heap on the number one show in professional wrestling, man, and it's a good feeling.
Now, the other thing I want to throw out before we finish off is that I've recently started reading. I'm still an avid comic reader. I try to keep up as quick as I can, but obviously you can't buy a comic every few weeks. But I love graphic novels. I've recently started reading Secret Wars 2, and if anybody's out there that's read it, you already know this. And anybody that hasn't read it, be it you're a casual fan, you used to read comics, maybe you still do. Anybody, it is one of the best event comics I've read in a very, very long time. It's probably, and I'm about 75% through, and I'm hoping to write a personal review on my blog, Cheap Seats Chatter. You'll see it about it. It's amazing in that it's probably the best thing I've read since Civil War, and it's great because it flips every kind of notion you have of using these characters on their head. Like, we've seen alternate realities. We've seen, like, shadow mirrors of certain characters. They're reversed or whatever. This is completely different. That if for anybody out there that's a huge Game of Thrones fan, and judging by their numbers, there's a lot of them, it has a huge Game of Thrones influence in its usage of kingdoms and hierarchies and very medieval kind of settings and looks, but it's immersed in heavily in a lot of Marvel mythology and a usage of these characters in a certain way, in a different way. It's some of the best story writing and dialogue I've read in a comic in a long time. Also, I'm a big fan of great art. The art is beautiful. So anybody out there, read Secret Wars 2. Amazing. The first one is a classic from its time in that what it did, debuted the black costume, the symbiote.
Oh, yeah.
But this is an amazing comic, and it's a game changer because now we've had just a very different Marvel universe since then. But I know you don't read comics as much, but even you, Jose, this is something you should go out there and you pick it up. And you may be a little confused on certain elements, but it's such a great tale. You get immersed in what's happening.
That's real interesting, man. I mean, I definitely fall into the latter category you mentioned of someone who's been in the comic books but doesn't necessarily keep up with them. But that's real good to hear, man, and it piques my interest. And, back in the day, I remember at a time where I wasn't reading comic books or graphic novels, somebody handed me a little graphic novel called Hush.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden got me right back into it, and that would be you, good sir.
Oh, that was me?
That was you back in the day. I remember I hadn't picked up a comic book in years. You handed me Hush, and I was hooked all over again, and I'm staring at my bookshelf right now that's full of graphic novels.
Yes!
And I have you to thank for that, sir. So I'm definitely taking a up your recommendation on this, and got to check out Secret Wars too.
All right, do it now. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed our segments, fantasy football, some top 5 movies of summer. We talked a little bit of wrestling, KO Mania, unbelievable. We talked a little comic books. Fun show, awesome. Come back. Like we mentioned earlier in the show, we got the YouTube channel. Search Cheap Seats in the Stickman Podcast. You can search the same thing on Google Play and iTunes. You can listen to some older episodes of the show and some good stuff. Final thoughts, Jose, before we head out?
This was a solid show, man. Real informative in terms of fantasy football, movies. I love it, man. We're trying to bring you quality here. I think we brought it tonight.
All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.